For me, it's taken my time, emotion and dedication and given me back very little. That is one quote that I received from an analyst when I asked him about the negatives of a job within sport. If you haven't already seen it, I did a video the other week about all of the pros of working within sports analysis, so I will link that video in the description down below, and it will also pop up somewhere at the top of the screen right about now. Having done that, I thought it was only fair to do a separate video highlighting all of the negatives. What are things that people don't enjoy but have to put up with? What could be improved? Don't get me wrong, there were definitely more pros than cons, and the cons did depend on who I actually asked. I think some of the younger and fresher analysts were potentially still riding the wave, you could say, in terms of, they are new to the industry and they might not have come across some of these cons that I'm going to bring up today. So I think it does depend on how long you've been within the game. So I do think this video is important for especially the younger ones to watch, as they may find things in here, that they've not come across themselves just yet. I will go for the same style as the previous video, but in this case it's going to be the 4 most popular answers. So I'm going to go through the top 4 cons of working within sports analysis, and then we'll also throw in a couple of extras that I thought were worth mentioning, again, even if they were just mentioned by 1 or 2 of the respondents. If you didn't see the previous video, these answers were collected from around 25 analysts working from the Premier League all the way down to non-league. There is also a mix of first team and academy analysts and people working within the men's game and the women's game, but I will say all answers came from working within football. They each gave 3 positives and 3 negatives about their jobs, so let's get into the negatives. Okay, so number 1, which was literally said by everyone, and that is the hours worked. Actually, not just the amount, but also the type of hours too. So evenings, weekends, bank holidays, birthdays, funerals, weddings, you name it. If it's in the season, you will probably have to work it. For example, someone said, it's not your typical 9 to 5, it's all day, every day. Even when you are off, you still find yourself thinking about the next game or meeting. And another commented on the average week. So he said, I find myself doing around 55 hours at the club, then another 20 or so at home. So it doesn't take an analyst to work out that that's quite a lot of hours. There seems to be absolutely no work-life balance, and for some people that is a bigger issue than others. For a younger person with no family or real commitments, it's probably not that much of an issue, but once you start to get a family of your own, then I think this issue gets highlighted much more. It can be really frustrating working within a club when you see the players and some certain coaches that are usually obviously paid a lot more than you leave early. So that happens, and then you've probably got a full day's worth of work to cram into that evening, so that night, you've got to take it home with you to be able to make sure you are ready for the meeting in the morning. That point does actually lead quite nicely into the next one, so let's go. Okay, so number 2, another answer which was pretty much said by every respondent was money, or should I say the lack of it.
We don't have enough money to get home, we don't have enough money to eat, we don't have enough money to sleep!
The majority of jobs within sports analysis, at least within British football clubs, are not going to make you rich. You probably can work your way up to the better teams and find yourself into more senior positions, which will pay a little bit more. But I think for the most part, if you're working in sports analysis, you are doing it more so for the enjoyment rather than the opportunity to make money. There are definitely easier ways to make money. So I will quote, so the pay you get for the hours you work is absolutely disgraceful and it won't change. We are underappreciated and get paid terribly. Quite an interesting one there. So this point does link to the point about hours worked. So obviously the more hours you work, the lower your hourly rate becomes. A lot of advertised jobs say they are for around 40-hour-a-week positions. The reality is you're probably going to hit those 40 hours by Thursday, maybe even Wednesday, depending on what you're doing. And you can bet your bottom dollar that you do not get paid any more for working beyond Thursday. To be honest, I don't think anyone goes into this line of work thinking that they're going to make a lot of money. They do it for the love of the game, which was highlighted in the previous videos when I did speak about all of the pros of working in sports analysis. I think the main concern or complaint even is that analysts they feel underappreciated and they are not paid in line with other disciplines, such as strength conditioning coaches or physios. Whether they should be is a debate in itself, I suppose, but what do you think? Let me know in the comments. Should analysts be paid the same as S&C coaches or physios? Right, so before I get to the next video, I do want to ask you to consider liking the video and also subscribing to the channel. I've really enjoyed making these videos over the last couple of months, and there's a lot more videos planned, so I would love to see you in those videos too. So yeah, please do subscribe to the channel below. So moving on to point number 3 that analysts class as a negative around their job, and that is the pressure. Working in a club can be a very intense environment, so when the results are going well and you're winning, it's probably the best place in the world that you can imagine working. You know, results are going well, you're winning, everybody is happy. However, if things are not going well and you are losing games, you know, the stress levels very rapidly can increase. In most clubs nowadays, if a team loses 3 or 4 games on the bounce, and that manager is going to be fearing for his job. So, you know, tensions are obviously going to rise and you need to get out of that rut as quickly as possible. Depending on what league you're in, points can be worth hundreds of thousands or even millions of pounds, so you better make sure you are on the ball and you stay organised. This point about pressure will also include the deadlines that you have to obviously adhere to when you are working within sports analysis. So I think this is heightened if you are a solo analyst working in a club. So if you are the only person there, you have to do the post-match and the pre-match stuff. There's a lot of work to do. You know, you've got a lot of deadlines to meet. Often you are playing twice a week, so it can be very, very difficult to keep up. Each game has to be prepared for meticulously, and that work has to be made readily available in good time for the coaching staff and the players. The prep has to obviously be relevant, so you are using the most recent, you know, fixtures from your opponents, for example. So it's not as though you can kind of get really, really organised and kind of batch the games in advance. You know, you need to be going from game to game, and over the course of a season, it can be a very hard slog. Respondents said that it can be easy to feel burnt out. Football always has to come first, and the multiple deadlines a week can be very tricky to navigate. Okay, so number 4 is job security. Now that is definitely more prevalent for first team over academy, but it is still a very important point mentioned by quite a few. Imagine you are the analyst at a club and your manager gets sacked for a run of poor results. So your manager's gone, a new manager comes in, you know, there is a high chance that that new manager is going to want to bring in his own coaching staff, and that sometimes does include an analyst. So if that new manager comes in, brings a new analyst, technically you are no longer needed. You certainly won't get paid off as well as the old manager, so you find yourself basically out of a job mid-season, desperate to try and get back in. Some analysts make strong bonds with managers and follow them around to different clubs. That can work out well, but it definitely does come with its own set of negatives. Imagine you have a young family and you've just bought a house down south, but then the manager that you usually work with has been offered a job up north. So what are you going to do in that situation? Are you going to go up alone for a short while? Are you going to uproot your whole family for that particular job? And that's if the manager actually gets another job. So he might be happy or comfortable just waiting for a better opportunity. So, you know, obviously being a manager, he will be able to last a lot longer than you without a job. Also on this point is the fact that I've seen analysts actually lose their jobs when teams get relegated, for example, if the club is looking to save money and make some cuts. This could be for the academy analysts too, so I think it just kind of shows that the whole job security angle, you know, might be for different reasons, but both first team and academy analysts, you know, you're never truly safe in your job, I would say. If a club is looking to save money, then some clubs, you know, they might just think that if they hit the requirements of the EPPP in terms of what they need for that, in terms of the analyst hours, then they might look to actually cut back the rest. It does seem, unfortunately, that the analyst department is usually the easiest one to cut. So I think it does then just kind of reinforce the fact that job security is not just for first team analysts, it also goes for the academy guys too. Okay, right, now for some extras that I did think were worth mentioning despite not being, you know, mentioned by everyone. So we have the difficulty and competitiveness that is required to get into the role in first place, or at least to move up to higher clubs. So this can be expensive when you factor in undergrad degrees, masters, you know, coaching badges, other qualifications. It all seems a lot when one of the main negatives, you know, that I mentioned obviously at the beginning of the video was money. So even if you do make it and you get into these clubs, you're not destined to earn a great deal of money. So the fact that, you know, the barrier of entry does seem to be quite expensive, you know, it's a tough one for some analysts to take. Next, we have a funny one, which I do actually remember experiencing when I worked in clubs. Just because you are an analyst and, you know, you normally have a laptop with you, you are sometimes seen as the tech guy within the coaching group. If the gaffer gets a new Apple Watch, let's say, you know, he probably might need your help to set it up. If the office printer is broke, that's probably on you too. Anything with a plug or a battery is usually your responsibility. Finally on this, we have time spent away from family. Obviously, I spoke about this a little bit when we looked at the hours worked, but I didn't really focus too much on the sacrifices you have to make in not seeing your family and friends very much at all. If you are an analyst, the chances are you may well then be traveling with a team. So, this could include Friday night travel, obviously in the hotel, you've got the game on Saturday, you could get back very late Saturday, even the early hours of Sunday. So let's say your other half works a standard Monday to Friday job. So, your weekends are taken up. So when do you actually plan on seeing, your partner, for example? So a lot of time will be spent away from loved ones, I think, if you do work within analysis. When you get back, you will have the post-match to do, and then, the chances are you will actually have to work ready for the next game that's probably on the Tuesday, for example. So it really just does never stop. Okay, that's it for this video. So if you haven't already, please make sure you do check out the opposite to this one and see what the analysts that I questioned, basically what they love about their job. That video is linked down in the description, so you can go straight there now. And please do let me know in the comments if I did miss anything out. Next up is another industry chat video, so please make sure you are subscribed to the channel so you don't miss that one. So thanks again for watching and have a great day.